Welcome to a new series, By a Few Degrees, where direction, not chance, writes history. Only on your dose of wowness.
After 3 episodes that ended badly, here's one that doesn't. 3 astronauts, a crippled spacecraft, and most guidance systems switched off to save power, and somehow they had to hit a re-entry angle only a few degrees wide, or they'd burn up or bounce off the atmosphere forever. So how do you steer a spacecraft with no instruments? You look out the window. This is the story of how Apollo 13 came home using only the line between day and night on Earth and a very steady hand. On April 13, 1970, an oxygen tank explosion forced astronauts Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Haise to transform their lunar module into a lifeboat. The Aquarius was built to support 2 people for 2 days on the lunar surface. Now it had to keep 3 people alive for a several-day return trip the vehicle was never designed to perform. Simply keeping the crew breathing wasn't the final hurdle. The true test was maintaining enough trajectory control to hit a precise, narrow physical target thousands of miles away back on Earth. This is day 7 of By a Few Degrees, and after a run of heavy episodes, this one's a genuine triumph story. Subscribe now. The Ark's palate cleanser is coming up next, and you'll want to be here for it. A returning spacecraft must thread a re-entry corridor only a few degrees wide. Hit the atmosphere too shallowly, it skips off into a permanent orbit. Too steep, friction builds up and the capsule burns up entirely. Maintaining this precision normally required the primary guidance computer and an inertial measurement platform. But to save the lunar module's batteries for the final descent, the crew had to power almost everything down. This created a terrifying paradox. They needed absolute mathematical precision to survive, yet they had to turn off the very machines designed to calculate it. What's about to happen is one of the most quietly impressive pieces of improvised navigation in all of spaceflight history. If that's the kind of story you come here for, subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this arc. The crew turned to a manual visual technique developed pre-flight as an emergency backup. They would effectively use the Earth itself as an instrument dial. Viewed from orbit, the terminator-line is the sharp, clearly visible physical boundary between the planet's sunlit and dark hemispheres. As the command module pilot, Jack Swigert was tasked with precise execution of this manual sighting. Swigert physically aligned the Earth's day-night boundary with a fixed reference marking etched onto the window. He then used small thruster bursts to manually adjust the ship's attitude, fighting natural drift to keep the line perfectly on the mark. This shift moved the mission's survival out of the realm of automative computing and back into the hands of a pilot using his eyes and a very steady hand. This manual technique functioned as a formal, rigorous procedure, supported by constant cross-verification from the ground. In Houston, flight dynamics officers worked in parallel, calculating ground-based tracking data in real time. By matching Swigert's visual sightings against their independent orbital math, the team confirmed the crippled ship was on a safe trajectory, without needing a working computer. Relying on this analog method allowed them to save the hours of time and battery power they would have wasted trying to reboot and recalibrate the dormant guidance platform. While Swigert focused on the sighting, Commander Jim Lovell managed the ship's deteriorating environment and the execution of the engine burns. And lunar module pilot Fred Haise monitored the lifeboat systems, enduring days of cold and cramped conditions to keep the spacecraft functional. Threading the re-entry corridor was the result of a total synthesis: the discipline of the crew in the capsule and the flawless mathematical tracking in Houston. On April 17, 1970, the crew finally abandoned the lunar module and returned to the command module for the final approach. The capsule hit the atmospheric corridor perfectly. As peak friction began, ionized plasma formed around the heat shield, initiating several minutes of radio blackout. Then the radio crackled back to life. They hadn't bounced off, and they hadn't burned up. The Odyssey splashed down safely in the South Pacific. All 3 astronauts were recovered in good health, ending one of the most remarkable rescue missions in history. Apollo 13 is remembered for the explosion that nearly ended it, but its true legacy is this unmatched display of improvised navigation and human competence under maximum pressure. 3 astronauts, a spacecraft never built for the trip home, and a re-entry angle they had to hit almost by feel, and they made it. After 4 heavy episodes in a row, we've earned something lighter. Tomorrow, we go back 67 years before Apollo 13 to a beach in North Carolina where two brothers needed one very specific wind angle to make history, and finally got it. 1903. The Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk.